I've been with movie star Hudson Wu for 5 years, and we have a daughter together. But all this time I've been his secret. His hidden lover, someone he couldn't acknowledge publicly. One night, our little girl suddenly fell ill, so we rushed her to the hospital. That's when everything changed. We ran into the paparazzi, and without a word, Hudson turned and ran, leaving me alone with our sick child. I stayed by her side as she burned with fever, completely overwhelmed and heartbroken. The next day, Hudson told the media there was no secret marriage, no girlfriend, and certainly no child. Watching him say that with such confidence, I felt something inside me break. I went home, packed our things, and quietly left the villa with my daughter. As I walked out, Sarah looked up at me and asked, "Mommy, aren't we going to tell Uncle Wu?" My eyes welled up. She's already 4 years old, yet she still doesn't know that Hudson is her real father. I wiped away my tears and told her gently, "No, sweetheart. Uncle Wu is just an uncle. He's very busy, so we shouldn't bother him." That morning, I drove to her kindergarten for the parent-child activity. The teacher glanced behind me and asked, "Sarah's father isn't here again?" I smiled awkwardly and said, "He's very busy." She replied, "It's Children's Day, it only comes once a year." I apologized again, explaining that Sarah's dad was overseas and couldn't make it back. During the event, every other child had both parents cheering them on. Sarah only had me. I tried to keep her spirits up, but I could see the disappointment in her eyes. When we got home, she looked up and asked, "Mommy, is Daddy still in Africa?" I told her yes, that he was filming elephants over there. She asked hopefully, "When will he come back?" I hesitated before softly saying, "In a little while." Truth is, earlier she'd asked who her father was and where he was. I made up a story about a world-traveling photographer who captures animals on film. She believed me, and now she watches wildlife documentaries every day, asking if her daddy filmed what's on screen. I lie and say yes, and she cheers. "Daddy is so awesome." Around 1 a.m., I heard a soft noise in the house. Half asleep, I opened my eyes and felt a warm kiss on my forehead. "You're awake. Go back to sleep," he whispered. In the dim light, I saw his handsome face and those smiling dark eyes. After kissing me, he leaned over to check on Sarah and kissed her cheek too. I couldn't help but ask, "Didn't you say you'd come back early today?" He stood up and took off his coat as he explained, "I ran into someone important at the dinner party. I couldn't leave right away." He tossed his coat onto the carpet and unbuttoned his shirt, revealing his sexy Adam's apple. "Who?" I asked. He smiled as he pulled me close. "Don't worry, it was a man. The head of the Chow Group." He nodded. I wasn't surprised. A woman wouldn't hold him back, but his career always could. On a special day like Children's Day, if he delayed coming home, it was definitely for work. This kind of thing happened so often that I had long since gotten used to it. That night, Hudson stayed until nearly 4 a.m. before rushing off again. Sarah held the watch he left behind and asked, "Mommy, did Uncle Wu come last night?" He nodded. "Yes, he came especially to celebrate Children's Day with you. But you were asleep, so he didn't want to wake you." She pouted and said, "Next time wake me up." "I won't sleep. Daddy doesn't come home, and Uncle Wu works so hard to spend time with me. I want to play with Uncle Wu." I forced a smile and said, "Okay." But I couldn't tell her the truth, that Uncle Wu is her real father. I used washing dishes as an excuse to hide my troubled expression. If I told people that the famous movie star Hudson Wu sneaks home at 1 in the morning just to see his girlfriend and child, then leaves again at 4 for work, they'd probably call him a good man. So many times I comforted myself like that. He's doing enough. Don't ask for more. But the feelings of disappointment, emptiness, and bitterness grew deeper each day. After making sure Sarah had breakfast and dropping her off at kindergarten, I headed to the nearby photo studio where I work. I took ID photos for customers robotically, repeating the same routine over and over. People complimented my photography skills, and I smiled faintly, exhausted as I sat down to rest. My eyes wandered across a National Geographic magazine on the table, and somewhere deep inside me, I felt a sharp pang of pain. 1 year passed and then another. The child was born. She grew up slowly but surely. We celebrated her 4th birthday with a small party. Hudson rushed home at 8 in the evening, just in time to join us. It was a rare moment when the whole family was together. Sarah rarely saw Uncle Wu, so she stayed awake until midnight, refusing to go to sleep before finally drifting off. But late that night, she suddenly developed a fever. No matter what we did, it wouldn't go down. We had no choice but to drive to the hospital. It was an emergency, but before leaving, Hudson took the time to put on a hat and mask, disguising himself before heading to the underground parking lot. Outside, a heavy rain poured down, blurring the neon lights of the city. Rainwater pooled on the streets, reflecting faint outlines of the buildings. Cars sped by, shattering those reflections into scattered lights. I tried my best to soothe our anxious, uneasy daughter. When we arrived at the hospital entrance, we got out and rushed to the emergency room with Sarah. Click, amidst the sound of pouring rain, the distinct noise of a camera shutter echoed. It was a sound I had heard countless times before. Familiar, so familiar that even through the thunder and lightning, I could hear it clearly. Hudson knew that sound well too. So well in fact that he didn't even look back. Instead he quickly handed Sarah to me. I dropped the umbrella, fumbling to catch her as he rushed back to the car and sped away. Sarah cried loudly while I stood in the pouring rain, holding her under the black umbrella that rolled beside me. Lightning cut through the dark sky, and the heavy rain blurred everything. Warm tears mixed with the rain, distorting the scene before my eyes. I watched as he disappeared into the blur. That night was like so many others. I took our child to the hospital alone, communicated with the doctor, comforted her, got medicine, administered injections. Nothing was different. Except this time I sat soaked in a corner, feeling a pain in my heart so sharp it made it hard to breathe. My phone kept ringing. I glanced at the caller ID but didn't want to answer. At dawn the rain cleared and the sky turned bright blue. I gazed out the window and murmured softly, "The sky in Africa must be just as blue." When Sarah woke up, I tiredly took her home in a taxi. My phone showed 20 missed calls, all from Hudson. The last one was a message from him on WeChat. *Nicole, how's Sarah? Has the fever gone down? What caused it? He was clearly worried about her condition, his words revealing his anxiety. But still, he hadn't come to the hospital, not even for a moment. Finally he said, "I have to go to the set now." I held my phone for a long time before replying. "Sarah is fine." Hudson is a very dedicated actor. In the dead of winter, if the director asked him to jump into a lake, he would do it without hesitation. He was always punctual, sometimes even arriving early, never keeping others waiting. If a scene didn't turn out well, he insisted on reshooting it, even if it meant doing it over a dozen times. But he was too ambitious, too devoted to his work, always prioritizing his career while our child and I were pushed further and further down the list. Broken promises, endless moments of patience. I was truly exhausted. I couldn't help but send him a message. *Hudson, I'm thinking of applying to join the National Geographic team for a photography assignment, maybe capturing animals or local customs. You should take care of the child for a while. That afternoon I received a reply. Still thinking of going to Africa to photograph animals. That place is dangerous and tough. Why would you want to go? Are you still upset about last night? I can take some time off soon and come back to spend time with you both. By the way, try not to go out these days. Layla will have someone watching over you. I smiled bitterly as I read his message. Whenever I mentioned going to Africa to photograph animals, Hudson was always against it. But for me it wasn't about Africa, it was about fulfilling my dreams. The location didn't matter. It could be Africa, Europe, the Americas, or even a small village in our own country. He could pursue his dreams, but he expected me to give up mine, to stay home and raise the child, waiting for someone who never came home. Ding. A news notification interrupted my thoughts. Opened it. Hashtag Hudson suspected of secret marriage hashtag was trending online. The news about Hudson's secret marriage caused quite a stir. A paparazzi blogger with a large following exposed some information confidently claiming that Hudson was secretly married. The article analyzed various clues, suggesting he had a hidden lover and even a child. One of the pictures included was a blurry shot from the night before during the rainstorm, showing Hudson holding Sarah as he got out of the car, with me following under an umbrella. The photo only showed two blurred figures, revealing nothing definitive. Hudson's reaction was calculated. He didn't turn back. Instead, he immediately handed the child to me and quickly ducked into the car, avoiding getting his face caught on camera. Commenters mocked the situation, saying it was likely just a woman taking her child to the hospital late at night, and perhaps a rideshare driver was helping hold the child. They dismissed the claim that this was evidence of Hudson's secret marriage, calling it a ridiculous stretch. The public didn't believe the rumors, and I breathed a sigh of relief for Hudson. But after that relief, I felt a deep sadness. This situation had played out many times before. Broken promises, missed appointments, nights spent alone. All with valid reasons. I couldn't even blame him. To blame him would make me seem unreasonable, asking for too much. But I felt hurt. And the pain only grew stronger. I anxiously followed the news. The blogger released more information, including 2 photos of Hudson and me from a trip abroad, showing our backs in an attempt to confirm the rumor. One of the photos clearly showed Hudson's back, and the clothes he was wearing were identified as ones he had worn in a specific place, used to verify that the person in the photo was indeed him. The situation escalated further. That evening, Hudson responded on a show. "There is no secret marriage, no wife, and certainly no child, thank you." He smiled calmly, seemingly unbothered, as if none of it was true. I stared at his face without blinking, trying to catch any hint of emotion. There was nothing. Absolutely nothing. After the stabbing pain in my heart subsided, a strange calmness washed over me. The next day Layla, the woman Hudson mentioned, came to the house, insisting on placing 2 bodyguards and ordering me to stay in the villa 24/7. I refused her arrangement. She was furious. "Do you realize how much trouble you could cause Hudson by not cooperating?" I said, "I just want to live a normal life." She stared at me for a moment before sneering. "Don't think I don't know your type. You'd love to get caught by the paparazzi, hoping to go from the shadows into the light. Well, let me tell you, stop dreaming and behave." "Mommy!" Sarah clung to my leg, frightened. Layla rubbed her temples. "For heaven's sake, Hudson, fooling around with women is one thing, but getting a child involved. You sure know how to make things difficult for me." I suppressed my anger and gently sent Sarah to her room to play. Once Sarah was gone, I turned to Layla with a cold expression and asked, "Even if the truth about me and the child were exposed, would it really have such a big impact on him?" "Of course," Layla snapped. "He signed a contract that requires him to remain single. You two cannot be exposed," I said calmly. "He is single." Layla paused, confused. "He never married me. He's been single all along and hasn't violated his contract. He's always been careful, not allowing me to call him my husband, nor letting Sarah call him daddy. Sarah doesn't even know he's her father." Layla was silent for a moment before she smiled. "Good. That's how it should be." "Yes, that's how it should be." I wanted to laugh, but I couldn't. I said, "I'm resigning." That afternoon I went to the photo studio to quit my job. The manager tried hard to convince me to stay, but I was firm in my decision to leave. Layla was pleased with my compliance and told me to stay quiet and not cause any trouble for Hudson. I said, "Okay." Then I went to the kindergarten to withdraw Sarah. The teacher seemed disappointed. "Why? Sarah was adjusting so well." I said, "Sarah's father has relocated to another city, so we need to move." "Oh, I see." The teacher wished us well, glad that we would finally be reunited as a family. Thanked her. Layla was even more satisfied knowing that Sarah would no longer be attending kindergarten. A few days later, Sarah was completely recovered. I packed our things and took off the ring on my finger, placing it on the nightstand. I looked around at the house where we had lived for several years. Hudson had never been stingy with material things. Everything here was exquisite and luxurious. But this home didn't belong to me. Sarah asked, "Mommy, aren't we going to tell Uncle Wu?" I stroked her head and said, "Uncle Wu is very busy, we shouldn't bother him." Sarah hesitated. But I'll miss Uncle Wu." I said, "Uncle Wu is just an uncle, and we've been staying at his house for a long time. It's time to move out." Sarah nodded. "Yes, we shouldn't trouble others for too long." I smiled faintly and took her small hand. "Let's go, Sarah," she said. "Okay." Chapter 9. Leaving with Sarah went smoothly. Layla had gone to handle other matters and wasn't at the villa. Before I left, I glanced at the meticulously maintained garden where a few camellias were in bloom. It said that camellias bloom longer than most flowers, lasting up to 7 months. My feelings for Hudson had also lasted 7 years. Flowers bloom in their time. No matter how brilliantly they bloom, there's always a day when they wither. I used to think that overcoming all obstacles to be with the one you love was a happy thing. But that happiness slowly faded away in the endless waiting and countless lonely days. On the way I tried calling home again. "The number you have dialed is not reachable." Still no contact. After falling out with my family, I often tried to call, but my number had been blocked. I even went back home, but each time I was turned away at the door. First, I took Sarah to the hotel we had booked and to the amusement park she had been longing to visit. I thought they would quickly realize that Sarah and I were gone. But 2 days passed, and Hudson still hadn't contacted me. I didn't know if he hadn't noticed or if he simply didn't care. "Mommy, stop playing with your phone," Sarah said unhappily as we ate pizza. I paused for a moment, then put down my phone and said, "Okay." It was strange. I was the one who wanted to leave, yet here I was waiting for a call. I had hoped we could talk things through over the phone so I could explain my decision to break up with him. I had thought of so much, prepared a long speech, but I hadn't considered that he might not reach out at all. It made me feel like a fool, like a clown. In truth, I've probably always been a clown, haven't I? When I think about it, what is there to say? Nothing worth saying. I would only be accusing him of things he shouldn't have done. I could already predict his defenses, that he had no choice, that he had valid reasons. And then we would fall into the same argument, repeating the same cycle over and over again. I knew the process so well that I could recite it backward. And in the end, I would gain nothing from it. So really there's no point in talking. My joys and sorrows mean nothing to his career. Repeating meaningless things in his ear won't make him change his mind. It'll just make him find me inexplicable. Why bother? I smiled, finally at peace, and deleted all of Hudson's contact information. I also blocked everyone connected to him. Leaving the entertainment industry isn't hard. Saying it's hard would be a lie. In this era where everyone is vying for attention, unless you intentionally market yourself, who would care whether someone leaves or joins the industry, or what they're doing? As an ordinary person, no one pays attention to me. As long as Hudson doesn't mention us, even if Sarah and I were to run naked down the street, at most people would laugh, but it wouldn't cause a stir. Sarah and I need to live a normal life, and Hudson needs to focus on his work. Separating and not seeing each other is the best solution. We both knew this from the start. But because of so-called love, we forced ourselves to stay together, causing unnecessary trouble and exhausting everyone in the end. But now it's finally over. We're both free. I took Sarah back to my hometown, only to be met with a locked door once again. My father is a strong-willed man. When he says something, he means it. He built himself up from nothing and is known locally for his integrity. When he said he didn't recognize me as his daughter, he truly meant it. To him, reputation is everything. To him, I'm a stain on his reputation, a disruption to his image and career. So when he said he wouldn't have me in his life, He meant it. I received a call from an unfamiliar number. When I answered, I heard a familiar voice. Hudson. Nicole, where did you take Sarah? Layla said you've been gone for 2 days. Back to my hometown, I replied shortly. A few days ago, I had so much I wanted to say, waiting for him to call so I could finally get it all out. But now, I didn't feel like speaking at all. It was like how over the years we'd gone from sharing everything, laughing, crying, and confiding in each other, to exchanging only brief words about work or our daughter, and eventually falling into silence. An invisible wall had grown between us. Some say that when a couple drifts too far apart, they're bound to separate. I used to doubt that. Now I believe it. He stepped into a dazzling world while I stayed behind. As communication faded and understanding disappeared, there was nothing left to talk about. This must be what people mean by having no common ground. It's good to get out for a while, he said after a pause, then asked cautiously, when are you coming back? I'm not, I replied. Not coming back. I turned to look out the car window at the evening sky, where sharp buildings split the setting sun in two. The scene was breathtaking. See, there's nothing that can't be divided. Even division can be beautiful. Hudson, we're breaking up. Don't come to see us again. Focus on your career, I said, leaning back in the seat. Only come to see Sarah when you're ready to let her call you Dad. Actually, I hope you never do, so she doesn't have to be confused. With that, I hung up and blocked his number once more. The next day, I took Sarah to S-City. Earlier, I had applied for a job at a magazine that specialized in photographing models. I used the photos I had taken of Hudson as part of my application. It felt kind of funny really because besides those, the only other photos I had were ID shots from the photo studio. My entire portfolio was made up of pictures of him. But the magazine accepted me. And just like that, I started working as a real photographer for them, someone who got to create, not just press a shutter button for ID photos every day. I rented an apartment, found a kindergarten, and enrolled Sarah. She was such a sweet, understanding child. She told me, "Mommy, don't worry about work. I'll be good." My eyes welled up as I gently hugged her. "Remember, besides Mommy, you mustn't go with anyone else," I reminded her. "What about Uncle Wu?" she asked. "Not even him," I said. The rumors about Hudson's secret marriage eventually died down. He had always been cautious, and the paparazzi couldn't find any solid evidence. A few blurry photos of someone's back weren't enough to prove anything. I deleted many apps and turned off notifications. News from the entertainment industry no longer concerned me. Life suddenly became peaceful. Without Hudson, I no longer had to worry about being caught by the paparazzi, or wait anxiously for him to come home, or feel trapped inside a photo studio. Felt good. I didn't end up going to Africa to photograph animals. Working while raising a child wasn't exactly convenient. But I was happy to be with Sarah. First, as a photographer I struggled. The pay was low, and it was a highly competitive industry, mostly driven by connections. If you had them, you landed commercial gigs and lived comfortably. If not, you relied on what the magazine gave you and barely scraped by. Luckily, I had a natural eye for photography, especially when it came to capturing people. Gradually, I gained repeat clients and started getting private commissions. I also did some freelance work online. The price per job quickly rose from 200 to 800 yuan. Not nearly as much as a famous photographer might make, but enough to live on and buy Sarah pretty little dresses. Eventually, some lesser-known celebrities from the entertainment industry began approaching me for photo shoots. They couldn't afford well-known photographers, so they tried me out. I treated each one the same, giving my best effort. Without them needing to ask, I would find their best angles and capture their best moments, thinking of ways to help make them stand out. If the shots weren't good enough, I made them redo them until we got it right, sometimes exhausting them in the process. But they enjoyed the struggle. Especially when they saw the final photos, their eyes would light up with excitement. That gave me a great sense of accomplishment. Every day I made sure to leave work on time to pick up Sarah. While work is important, so is family. I didn't want Sarah to experience the long waits I had endured. Being late can lead to a broken window effect, If you're late picking up your child once, it's likely to happen again and again. Eventually it might become a habit. Then maybe you stop coming altogether, leaving a nanny to care for your child, just like Hudson had done. First he was always on time. Then he wasn't. Then he broke promises. And eventually, he broke them over and over without feeling any guilt. He always had reasons. I could have told Sarah that I had to work late. But I didn't want to. Even if she understood and said, "It's okay, Mommy," I knew it would hurt her inside. Life went on peacefully and fulfillingly. Not long after, a series of photos I took went viral online. The subject was a young celebrity who became an overnight sensation with those school uniform pictures, earning the title of National School Heartthrob. Jack, the young celebrity, called me excitedly. "Nicole, you're amazing. I want to treat you to dinner." I couldn't refuse, so I accepted. Jack was cute and handsome, with two little tiger teeth that showed when he smiled. At first glance, you might think he was just a charming young guy. But in reality, he had a strong muscular build with an impressive eight-pack, a striking contrast. When I first saw him, I immediately thought of doing a photo shoot that would highlight this contradiction, capturing his dual image. Sure enough, after we released the photos and did some marketing, they went viral. At dinner, he kept praising me. I had a little to drink, so I opened up more than usual. "You don't need to thank me," I said. "I was paid to bring out your unique traits in the photos. And for a shoot to be successful, you need marketing, luck, and the right timing." Jack poured me another drink. "Nicole, other photographers have tried to capture what you did, but they all failed. Only your photos had the impact to make the marketing successful. Nicole, you're incredibly talented." It was the first time a client had praised me so sincerely, and it made me genuinely happy. I smiled and raised my glass. "To your bright future." He raised his glass too. "And to your dreams coming true." I paused, surprised by his words. Dreams coming true. I found myself liking this 21-year-old a little more. After that, Jack introduced me to several more commercial gigs, all involving his friends. Most of them were trainees, minor celebrities, or small-time influencers. Their photos didn't become as famous as Jack's, but given the quality of the work and the price I charged, they were very satisfied. Over time, my relationship with Jack grew closer. He reminded me a lot of Hudson. Both had struggled in obscurity for a long time, and once they caught a break, they climbed the ladder relentlessly, seizing every opportunity. Now Jack had secured a secondary male lead role in a high-profile drama. He said I was his lucky charm and invited me again. "Nicole, would you be my personal photographer?" I smiled lightly. "Sure, as long as you pay me well." I was past the age of impulsiveness. After spending all my passion on Hudson, I had learned to stay calm, no matter how eager or enthusiastic someone else might be. Jack's success helped make my name known in the industry, and soon offers started pouring in. One offer stood out. They were willing to pay 100,000 yuan for me to photograph a celebrity. That was tempting. I said, "Please understand I have a child, so I can only shoot in this city, and I need to finish by 4 p.m. They replied, "No problem." So I went to the specified location. As I walked in, I saw a familiar tall figure standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows, his silhouette glowing in the sunlight. "Hudson." I immediately turned to leave. "Nicole." Hudson rushed over and grabbed my arm. "Let go." The room was empty except for the two of us. Hudson held me tightly. I took a deep breath and stopped struggling. "Hudson, let go." "I won't." "Nicole, you're so heartless, making me search for you for so long." He accused me, but as I looked at the relief on his face, my feelings became complicated. "Hudson, we've already broken up." I never agreed. "We should have broken up a long time ago." He held me tighter, and for a moment I let him. But as I reflected on it, I realized I couldn't recapture the feeling I used to have when we hugged. Camellias bloom, but they must eventually wither. The love had faded. The emotions had dissipated. Those once heartwarming, joyous embraces could no longer stir any passion within me. Hudson whispered words of love in my ear, asking me to come back. I listened to his rambling without saying a word. He held me so tightly that it started to hurt. After a while I asked, "So, can you let Sarah openly call you Dad?" He suddenly fell silent. I continued, "Can we openly get married?" He was quiet for a long time before he finally said, "Nicole, just give me a little more time." I pushed his hand away. This time my strength wasn't as strong as before, but I easily broke free. See, no matter how much he loved me when it came to his career, he could let go. "Why do you think I should give you more time?" asked him. "What made you think I would always wait for you? That I would always long to marry you? Is it because you're successful, a movie star, earning more and becoming more famous, while I'm just an ordinary person? So I'm supposed to wait silently in the background, to be at your beck and call? Do you think because you're better than me, I should sacrifice everything, supporting you like a servant supports a king?" Hudson remained silent. "Or do you think because you're a movie star, bringing me here without my consent, holding me and kissing me doesn't count as sexual harassment, that the law would find you innocent?" Hudson's eyes widened, as if he couldn't believe how harsh I was being. "Nicole, you know that's not what I meant. We've broken up, Hudson." A few weeks after I blocked Hudson, I received an unexpected message. Not from him but from Jack. He sent me a link to a live-streamed press conference. Hudson was sitting on a stage surrounded by flashing cameras and curious reporters. He looked different, tired maybe, or just honest for once. When someone asked about his rumored secret marriage, he didn't deny it this time. He didn't confirm it either. Instead, he said something that stunned everyone. "There's a woman who loved me more than anyone ever has," he said quietly. "And there's a child who calls her mommy. That's all you need to know." The room fell into murmurs. Reporters shouted questions, but he stood up, smiled faintly, and walked away without answering another word. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. It wasn't an admission, not exactly. But it was close enough to make the rumors flare again. Only this time it felt different. Controlled. Respectful. Jack texted me right after, "You okay?" I replied, "Yeah. Just surprised, asterisk." He responded quickly. "He finally grew up a little, huh?" I laughed softly and put my phone down. That night I tucked Sarah into bed. She looked up at me with those big, thoughtful eyes. "Mommy," she said, "do you think Uncle Wu misses us?" I brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Maybe. But some people have to learn how to miss others before they can really appreciate them." She thought for a moment, then nodded like she understood something far beyond her years. As I turned off the light and stepped out of her room, my phone buzzed again. It was a message from an unknown number. "Thank you," it read. Asterisk for everything. Even the goodbye. Asterisk. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the window and looked out at the night sky. The stars were bright, and the moon hung low over the rooftops. Peaceful. I took a deep breath and whispered to the silence, "You're welcome." And then, for the first time in years, I let go completely. Not just of Hudson, but of the idea that love had to look a certain way to be real. Love doesn't always mean being together. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away and let the other person find their own way back to themselves. Not to you, but to who they were meant to be.